said, I got the R&B soul thing from my mom, as well as show tunes. And then my dad introduced me to a very, underground rock world. And, of course, I grew up in the 70s, so you had all those bands in the mix as well. My first record was Jackson 5's ABC. And even early then, I was like, this is what I want to do. He's doing it. Can I do it? I mean, how old was Michael at that time, right? And then from there, when my family split up when I was like a 9 or 10, I guess my dad thought it was a smart thing to say, and he said, you're the man of the house now. But that just brought so much pressure, because at a kid 10, 11 years of age, you start thinking like, oh, I have to go out and get this. I have to go bring it home. I gotta do everything he was doing, which is not the truth. It's not the case, but the kid doesn't understand that. So when my mom tried to hold it down with 3 of us, and some nights we were eating peanut butter and jelly back to back, somehow I felt like I was letting everybody down, and those were those early footsteps into depression, and the things that really started affecting me as I got older. It's a question of, why am I even still here? You know what I mean? Not only being an IV drug addict, going through the criminal system of New York, or correction system. I was exposed to TB. I contracted the hepatitis C virus. Broke my neck in jail here in New York, New Jersey, trying to get at a corrections officer. I didn't know I was a depressed person. You know what I mean? I just knew that I allowed a lot of things, a lot of resentments, disappointments, and my resentment to my father eat at me to the point where I allowed this succubus into my life, because I was so desperate for that veiled trickery that drugs call love is what they do to suck you in. You think you're being loved. You think you found the thing that's been necessary to fill your heart and feel complete. But that's only for a very short time. One day you're gonna wake up in bed feeling like you got the flu, and you'll have a little man in your head telling you what you need to go do. When I first had that realization, I was arrested for my first felony and got that wake-up call in the Tombs down in Manhattan. Now from there, I did several failed detoxes. I did several failed treatment programs. I still wore my heart out on my sleeve. I never felt like society wanted me. I never felt, like I was one of everybody. I wasn't bullied in school, but I changed up a lot of schools, so it's not like I would easily be able to get acclimated with everybody that I was in that class of. So there would be conflicts. But I could have been a geek. I could have been a jock. I could have been one of the heads, because I did all of it. You know what I mean? I wasn't really pigeonholed or lined into one. And I think a lot of people got a little weirded out by that, because they were such a uniformed person. You were a jock, or you were a head, or you were a geek or nerd. You know what I mean? You couldn't cross-pollinate and become a hybrid. They didn't get it. So instead of going to school, I founded my own university, and I would just ride the subway all day, going to places that I wanted to see. I wanted to see Yankee Stadium, you know. It's opening day, they're playing Texas. Billy Martin's managing. Yeah, that sounds good. You know what I mean? Or go to Shea and, you know, watch the team that, you know, I grew up loving as a child. Going to a museum. Going to the village. Taking the train to Coney Island and back. It would eat the hours up. It would stimulate my mind. I'd be able to watch and absorb things. And it kept me occupied. When I got into that upper echelon of the popularity contest is when I got lost. But sometime into '95, treatment started taking in. And before the millennium, I started realizing that there's not an addict out there that's not going through some sort of mental health issue. There's a lot of schizophrenics that are just medicating with anything they can find, and then they sometimes end up in my world. So many people that are suffering from bipolar issues, not just become addicts to opiates or opioids, but the benzodiazepine life of Xanax, or what used to be Valium, is another trap. And a lot of those other drugs are actually harder to detox than straight up heroin. You know what I mean? You can sweat a detox out in a week. The question is, will you not pick up again? That was always, you know, my issue. You know, I was young enough and healthy enough to sweat out all the time. You know, if I got locked up, at least I knew I was getting clean. You know, but it was just a matter of time before I would just go back into the same mix and get more and more lost. But that realization, that understanding that most of us, or at least 95% of us, we're all dealing with some sort of depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. It helped me to understand myself a bit more. And I tried to start letting go to certain resentments. Or I just moved forward and tried to start understanding this thing I had, you know. Some people don't call it a disease. It depends on the medical person you speak to. Growing up in a broken home, I didn't realize how music was my daily therapy session. And just singing, whether it was yelling or trying to mimic the voices of the artists of the 70s as a child, you know, because I had R&B at home. I was listening to WBLS when it was a strictly all-black radio station through my mom. Then my dad was a bit of a cowboy. You know, he had a legit life, and then he had a street life, you know, in organized crime. It was a very twisted world to grow up in. And I was very lucky to have that music to seek solace to. And I didn't know it until later on how much that was going to be a big part of my life. You know, because all of us as kids, we have a lot of dreams. And, you know, I had great reading comprehension. And I felt like I could become a lawyer or something famous, you know. But, you know, one of the other things I aspired to be is a singer. And I got to live a life dream. It might not be on some main level. It might not have given me the opportunity to be set for life. But I'm touching people, and I understand that's what it's all about, you know. If I wanted to be a rock star, I would have joined a fucking boy band ages ago, you know what I mean? But this is my calling, you know. I've got kids reaching out to me, and when they tell me my lyrics or the music that I was a part of, because I'm only the singer, I'm only the lyricist, you know, and how that music helped them get through dark times, it makes it all worth it, you know.